Well, after that little detour, we return to Mortal Kombat. 2005 was an odd year, wasn't it? Mortal Kombat was on a bit of a high and low, and what we got in between MK6 and 7 was actually an action-adventure game called Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks, starring the titular Shaolin Monks of the series, Liu Kang and Kung Lao. But when was it going to be set? Well, it actually takes place during or before Mortal Kombat 2. You see, Mortal Kombat 2 was, at the time, the high point of the series, so it made sense to try to cash in on its nostalgia. Mortal Kombat tried the action-adventure style gameplay with mythologies and failed. Really failed with special forces, so maybe third time was the charm? Well, let's take a look. For starters, you can only play as two characters, Liu Kang and Kung Lao. You can play a single-player game or a two-player co-op. With the help of a friend, I was able to play the game in co-op. I was Liu Kang, he was Kung Lao. But we got a plot to uncover, so let's start with the opening. The opening shows a massive battle taking place at Shang Tsung's palace. Not really sure what that has to do with a tournament, but in any case, the main show gets started with Liu Kang fighting Shang Tsung. Shang Tsung almost consumes Liu Kang's soul when a masked guard leaps out and saves Liu Kang. This is our first major divergence in canon, as we now have Kung Lao was in disguise as a masked guard, which I don't think was ever implied to be the case, but I guess I can live with it. Also, I'd like to point out that Scorpion does not get a good showing here. SubZero kicks his ass pretty handily. See, Scorpion doesn't always win. Regardless, Liu Kang wins and we get our big reveal. Goro. Even though Goro is supposed to be assumed dead, but okay. So Goro manages to pretty handily beat the heroes, so Shang Tsung does the most logical thing. Retreat. Okay, sure. So the heroes try to escape, but Liu Kang and Kung Lao fall into the crevice, which leads us into our opening level, Goro's Lair. Raiden basically leaves you a bunch of tips to teach you how to play the game, and I gotta admit, this doesn't play that bad. Control is nice and tight, it's fun hitting enemies. You got a nice mix of attacks. Square is your light attack, triangle is your launch attack where you can knock your opponent up into the air and continue pummeling them there, circle is your strong attack. You can mix these up in any way you see fit to create combos. You can also throw an enemy with R2. Special moves make a return as well by pressing R1 on the corresponding button. Liu Kang and Kung Lao will do one of their trademark special moves. Liu Kang has his fireball, uppercut, and flying kick, and Kung Lao has his teleport, spin, and hat throw. When surrounded by multiple enemies, you can attack in multiple directions. You gain experience points by killing enemies, and you use this to upgrade your combos and special moves. So this is progression done right, unlike mythologies. Playing in co-op is actually pretty fun. Liu Kang is weaker but faster, and Kung Lao is stronger but slower. After you make it out of Goro's lair, you find yourself at the pit, where you have to jump up to get to the top, and thank God there's a dedicated jumping button. You get to the top of the pit where you'll find Reptile waiting for you. Even though earlier we saw him jumping through the portal to Outworld. Continuity! What's that?
Servants. I do not serve Shang Tsung.
Yes you do. So you do have to fight some Oni on the pit, and you can do the classic knock opponent off to the spikes below, so this helps teach you that you can use the environment to kill your enemies faster. But you don't get any experience points. So once that's done, you go inside and finally you get access to your first finishing move. Fatalities. Liu Kang and Kung Lao have their fair share of fatalities that you can perform throughout the game. To do a fatality, you have to fill up the fatality meter. That's this bar next to your life bar. Eventually you'll get access to the long jump ability, which is your first special ability upgrade. And there are several of these throughout the game. So once you get through Shang Tsung's island, you get a cutscene. Back at the Wuxi Academy, Raiden awards the heroes with medals for their roles in stopping Shang Tsung. Kung Lao is not entirely happy with Liu Kang getting all the credit, but now's not the time for celebrations as Baraka makes his attack with the Tarkatan forces, which leads you to your second level, the Wuxi Academy. Basically, throughout this level, you witness things such as Shaolin monks fighting the Tarkatans in the background. It's fun to knock them into a spiked catapult which sends them flying, and you'll need to do this to progress through the level. And here I want to talk about the camera. In single player, you could pick which camera angle you want to use, but in co-op, the camera is stuck in a fixed position, and sometimes it can't decide just which player it wants to follow. You can't progress to the next area unless both characters are near the end of the area. Eventually, you'll get to the part where you team up with Johnny Cage to fight off the Tarkatans. This part highlights that you can pick up weapons and they deal double damage, but they don't last too long. Eventually, you make your way to the Burning Academy, and thus you have to use Test Your Mic puzzles to release the water flow. In the meantime, while this is going on, Sonya gets captured by Baraka, and Raiden and Shang Tsung face off. This leads into the next cutscene. Shang Tsung is watching Liu Kang and Kung Lao train when suddenly Raiden appears before them. Gee, what are the odds that he's really Shang Tsung in disguise? So, Raiden tells our heroes to go to Outworld to rescue Sonya and avenge this attack. So you make your way into the portal. Raiden opens the path claiming that he won't have as much power in Outworld, which is a weird in-between the movies claiming he was powerless, and being able to use an MK2, so I guess I'll take it. Liu Kang and Kung Lao leap through the portal and arrive in Outworld.
Master Raiden, if I am to die here, then it will be for the honor of my family. Very well.
Yeah, sounds good to me, man. So you find yourself in the portal. This basically acts as your hub area. Getting to the next area of the game means you have to defeat the Shadow Priest, which is where Liu Kang's flying kick comes in handy for knocking them off the stage. So you get to the next level of the game, the Evil Monastery. Kitana mocks you as you arrive, and thus the climb begins. You make your way up the tower. There's parts where you have to impale enemies on spikes to progress, all the while Kitana keeps mocking you. Eventually you find yourself in an exact replica of the tower from MK2, which is a neat little touch. It's here you gain access to the Mortality. With 2 fatality meters filled, you can execute a Mortality, which lets you kill multiple enemies, but it doesn't give you experience. Eventually, you continue making your way up the tower, dodging boulders, until you finally reach the top where Kitana is waiting for you. You fight her, and then after you beat her, she escapes through a portal. Raiden tells you Kitana is under a holding spell, which I don't think was ever implied to be the case in MK2, but then again, I figured the developers were like, we want Kitana to be a boss, but she's a good guy. Let's just explain it by putting her under a spell. Lazy writing. You manage to trap Kitana in a spell control area, but then Mileena and Jade show up to free her, and thus you're treated to the first major boss fight against Shao Kahn's Angels. It's really not that difficult to fight. You just have to weaken Kitana to get her back in the spell break thing, and once she's freed, it becomes a boss battle against Mileena and Jade. It's pretty easy. And then you get the notification to do a fatality, and... oh Jesus, that's really sadistic. Not exactly what a Shaolin monk would do. So Kitana wakes up, freed from her spell. She recounts Shao Kahn's takeover of her life. But she's quite pissed at our heroes for killing Jade, and quite rightly so since it was kind of unnecessary. But regardless, Mileena makes her escape and Kitana gives pursuit. After that, you achieve a tournament victory and the Fist of Ruin, which lets you break those large statues. After that boss fight, you get a cutscene where Raiden explains that by fighting opponents, they will be able to weaken Shang Tsung. Liu Kang mentions that they will be in competition with each other then. Except that's not exactly what you guys just did, so this makes no sense.
Raiden, who is Shao Kahn? Where's Kitana?
He is not to be concerned with.
Red flag, guys? No, guess not. So you make your way back to the portal where Liu Kang and Kung Lao argue.
My girlfriend. She may help us, remember? So what do we do? This is what Raiden was talking about. If we defeat Reptile, Shang Tsung will be that much weaker. No, I will defeat Reptile. You can watch. That is what Raiden was talking about.
Boy, have I mentioned how much of a jerk Kung Lao is in this game? Originally, he sought to defend Earthrealm, but in this game, he's a bit of an arrogant glory seeker, and it's not a welcome change at all. Maybe what they were trying to go for was to make Kung Lao the Vegeta to Liu Kang's Goku, but it really didn't work well. Moving on, next level, the Living Forest. This level's pretty cool. You can actually feed your enemies to the trees this time, and you need to do this in order to progress. You can also feed them the giant snakes, and here you'll come across the Brutality. Get your fatality meter all the way to level 3, and you can perform brutalities. Eventually you get to the boss of the area, Reptile. Well, first you gotta fight his giant snake thing, which you accomplish by tearing down these pillars, though it's a bit annoying because you can get hit by the snake and it'll knock you down. Once that's taken care of, you'll fight Reptile. He's honestly pretty easy, even though he does have several stages. Sometimes he'll go invisible, so he makes good use of his abilities. Eventually you'll wear him down and you'll finish him off too. That's brutal. With that, you gain the wall climb ability, and you go outside where Raiden will be waiting for you.
You killed Reptile. This is very good.
Red flag! Red flag! But regardless, you're told to go to the Soul Tombs, and on your way back through the forest, Raiden talks to Liu Kang about how Kung Lao is not to be trusted. Some nonsense about evil spirits lurking within Outworld and they're possessing him. It wouldn't happen to be his attempt to sow discontent between the two, because then he decides he's on Kung Lao's side. So, next level, the Soul Tombs. This level is kind of a maze, since you have to go through 2 areas of the Soul Tombs. One area you have to time your test your might so that the gate crushes masked guards. There's a neat part where you are in the Combat Tomb. Eventually you'll come across Shang Tsung, who will restore his youth, even though Shao Kahn was supposed to have done that. Yeah. So he leaves, you destroy the Soul Tomb, so not a trap, right? So with that, you unlock both gates, and you find yourself facing the boss of the level, Baraka. But first I must show you the funniest scene in MK history. No! No. He's fine. Clearly just winded. Now it's time to fight Baraka, and he can be pretty tough. Eventually it'll get to the point where you have to impale him with the 2 swords. He can somehow stand up after being impaled through the head. But regardless, he'll blow up. Then Liu Kang and Kung Lao see their ancestors, even though Kung Lao's ancestor is the great Kung Lao, so someone screwed up here.
We are part of an ancient mystery. That is all.
What the hell does that mean? So first you have to do a little backtracking to the Wuxi Academy to get the wall run ability, but fortunately there's a portal right there, so that's a nice thing they did. You get the wall jump ability, which, of course, allows you to jump from walls. Liu Kang and Kung Lao head through the blue portal, and find Kitana confronting Mileena. She escapes, and Kitana explains that Mileena is her clone, and that as long as she is alive, it is as if she isn't real, or something. Kitana mentions that Mileena is heading to the Wastelands to seek help from Goro.
We have to stop Mileena before that can happen. I knew you were going to say that.
Oi, you're really worked up about this, aren't you? So you go to the next level, the Wastelands. You have to deal with Red Dragon and Black Dragon mercenaries, who are focused on fighting each other rather than you. Eventually you'll come to a part where you have to throw these magical suits of armors into a pool where Raiden will kill them for you. You can also find Cabal in this level as a secret. Isn't that random? But it's not long before you encounter your next boss, SubZero. SubZero is actually fairly tough, but you don't have to finish him. Eventually you'll see Kung Lao give SubZero his famous scar. I really don't know what the significance of that is. You get the same basic story. Scorpion killed the original SubZero, this is his younger brother, he's here to avenge him, and so forth. So this leads to the next part where you have to assist SubZero on a boat. Eventually you'll arrive at the palace, where after some more enemies you'll encounter Scorpion, who SubZero will chase. So you're on your own.
Gone. Like he was never here at all.
No, he just left you, idiot. So boss time. Goro. Now wait, isn't Goro supposed to be assumed dead? Well yes, it says so right here. But I assume this was based on a supposed secret that Goro could be found in MK2, and now it's made true. Because hey, you wanna do something cool? Who cares if we have to sacrifice continuity to do it? Goro is mainly a keep your distance boss. Eventually you'll prepare to finish him off when... Oh, that's embarrassing. Liu Kang gets irritated that he wasn't able to kill Goro, but before a confrontation can ensue, Johnny Cage reveals that this Liu Kang was actually Shang Tsung. Johnny Cage reveals that Shang Tsung is trying to turn them against each other, and that he could look like anyone. So Johnny Cage is the smartest character in the story. Who'd have thunk? But then Raiden shows up and tells him he's got something else for Johnny Cage. Does anyone assume that this could be Shang Tsung? No, they just blindly believe him. Next order of business is to go to the Netherrealm for really no reason. After a quick pit stop in the Deadpool, you'll go to the Netherrealm. There you fight Scorpion. And I must give credit where credit is due. They really went all out with this boss battle. Scorpion has several stages. The way he uses his spear is really elaborate. He's even swinging around like he's Spider-Man. Even after you beat him, you have to fight him again as Inferno Scorpion, where he hits twice as hard. But in no time you'll knock him down. He even gives you a thumbs up and a nice little Terminator 2 reference. So with all that finally done, the main door opens and we head to the final level, the Foundry. After a quick meetup with Jax, who's looking for Sonya, you'll eventually come to a puzzle of sorts where you have to forge a giant axe, which is pretty seamless because you need to use it to knock down these two crystals. Once you do that, you access the final area, the Colosseum. Kung Lao, actually showing a little bit of common sense, says that they cannot be sure if they can trust Raiden. Liu Kang, being an idiot, takes this to mean that this is Shang Tsung, and a fight nearly breaks out between our heroes. It's at this moment that Raiden appears and tells them that, no, you idiots are being tricked. They were empowering him, and before he can reveal the shocking secret of who he has been masquerading as, he gets attacked by none other than Shao Kahn. Shao Kahn invites our heroes to fight him and Shang Tsung. As our heroes arrive, Shao Kahn greets them.
Your presence here is unwanted. Uninvited.
No, you clearly invited us just a minute ago. It's then that Raiden appears and Liu Kang and Kung Lao are shocked to discover that he is really Shang Tsung and has been the whole time! Idiots! So you begin the final boss stage of the game, beginning with Shang Tsung. He's honestly pretty easy. All you have to do is continue to wail on him, even though he'll turn into a few characters. After you wear him down, you'll deliver the coup de grace. Ooh, irony. Once that's over with, Shao Kahn reveals that Shang Tsung was trying to overthrow him, but was secretly doing his bidding anyway. For once actually listening to his people, he sicks Kentaro on you. Kentaro's not too hard, all about keeping your distance and using projectiles to damage him, and after a particularly brutal fatality, you finally confront Shao Kahn himself. Shao Kahn vows to free their friends if they defeat him. At that moment, Kitana, Raiden, and Johnny Cage appear, having already freed themselves.
Saved our friends!
No, you didn't. Final boss time. Shao Kahn is another projectile boss. Although it would be nice if those three characters did anything to help you. But once you get Shao Kahn down to the halfway point, you'll break off his mask. And credit where credit is due. He looks exactly as he did in the MK2 comic book. This leads to the second half of the fight where he uses his hammer to swing around. But just keep with the same strategy of shooting projectiles at him, and eventually you'll bring him down for the finishing move. Raiden turns Shao Kahn to stone. The hell? This causes Liu Kang and Kung Lao to break him into pieces. So all's well that ends well. Kitana and Liu Kang begin a very odd relationship. I mean, Kitana seems to have completely forgotten the fact that Liu Kang basically killed her best friend in cold blood. So everyone goes home, only to not notice someone approaching Shao Kahn's remains, and that person is Quan Chi, who picks up his amulet and laughs? What the hell kind of ending is this? Did they forget that Quan Chi already had the amulet in his possession? He got it in Mythologies. How did they screw this up? So, to sum it up, I have to give the story of this game an F. Widely inconsistent with canon, with tons of retcons, depends way too heavily on the idiot plot, as everything could have been avoided if Liu Kang and Kung Lao weren't idiots. And the one major problem you might ask is, how are these characters alive and well in future games if they died here?
But nobody really ever dies in Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. Well, in an old chat back when the game first came out, the developer said the deaths were done for show, because otherwise they would just run away, and that seemed kinda lame. So the entire plot is mainly undone because it depends on Shang Tsung getting those souls. Ugh, I could go on, but I think you get the point. The story was a letdown, which leads me to what I liked about this game. The gameplay is actually pretty solid. It's fun killing enemies. You get a variety of enemies, such as the Oni, which you can punch to your heart's content, and there's times where you have to mix things up, such as the Masked Guard, where you have to block their attacks. Level design is varied and keeps things fresh and interesting. You can upgrade your character's special moves. For example, Liu Kang can shoot his high and low fireball, and then follow that up with a huge fireball. But my personal favorite has got to be the bicycle kick, flying kick combo. So much fun to use. But the gameplay is a little on the short side. You can beat the game in less than 5 hours, and that's including secrets, which I'll get into in a minute. The graphics are pretty solid, but I swear there's some kind of odd error between keeping characters' appearances consistent. In the opening cutscene, this is Liu Kang. In what I guess I would call the in-between cutscenes, this is Liu Kang. In-game cutscenes, this is Liu Kang. Is this even supposed to be the same guy? I did encounter a bit of slowdown at certain times, and for some reason, Kitana just glitched and got stuck in mid-air here. It wouldn't be an MK game without secrets. There are these yin-yang symbols which unlock arena art, concept art, characters for versus mode. There are some you can only get by doing co-op. When the game was in development, they said that if it was in MK2, it was in Shaolin Monks, and that's pretty true. Well, mostly. Noob Saibot only appears in a single cutscene. He's not even a boss, which is really kind of inexcusable. Smoke is in the game, though his role is mainly to give you missions that range from knocking down walls in the Soul Tombs to fighting enemies on the Pit 2. Once you do all 5 missions, you unlock Mortal Kombat 2. Now with that, on to the secret bosses. In the Living Forest, there's an area where you can swing up to the treetops. Up there, you will encounter Melina for a second fight. Nothing major really. Go back to the Wuxi Academy and you can find the Warrior Shrine. Which is odd, considering it's supposed to be on Shang Tsung's island, but continuity! What's that? Here you can fight Ermac in a secret boss fight. Finally, just before the final boss, you talk to Katana in her cell 4 times, some guards will come out of a door, after you beat them, you head down, and you will find Jax freeing Sonya and Kano. From then on, you have to fight Kano. It's actually a neat little touch. Finally, there's one secret that took a year for people to find. You have to take the axe in the Foundry. Jump into a pool of lava, break a crate, head up, break another crate, another, then the last one, then slam the ground with the axe, and you'll unlock survival mode. Now, how would anyone figure out how to do that? Survival mode is essentially what it says. Survive against swarms of bosses and enemies. But there's no real reward for beating it, just an additional 8%. Thank God I'm not the completionist. As for your reward for beating the game, well, it's not much of a reward, but you can play through the game as Scorpion and SubZero. While they have their own moves, unfortunately they're just skins. I guess this was meant to be a preview for the Mortal Kombat Fire and Ice game that sadly never saw the light of day. In addition to the 4 playable story mode characters, you can play as Katana, Johnny Cage, Reptile, and Baraka in Versus mode. This mode is a bit of a time killer. It's an extra and not a particularly fun one either. So that's Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks. I consider it the anti-mythologies. Horrible story, but fun gameplay. And I honestly wouldn't mind seeing another game like this. Sadly, that doesn't seem to be happening anytime soon. Perhaps we can get a remaster on the PS4? Well, that's this odd chapter in MK history dealt with. But now for the big one. All good things, well, mostly good, must come to an end. That's what awaits us in Mortal Kombat Armageddon. Oh boy, this one is going to take a while. Let's do it. This is RetrospectGreg signing off. Thanks for watching, and take care. Did you enjoy the video? I hope so. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see more. Alright guys, I'll see you next time.